Greetings and welcome to Cobweb Cottage. It is October here in Sleepy Hollow Country, so you know what that means. Or well, maybe you don't. Maybe you're new around here, and in that case, my name is Lindsay Diane, and I would love to have you join me for this vintage Halloween cottage tour. This has become an annual tradition of mine to put on a cute witchy outfit and play some spooky Halloween music and decorate while Jonas is busy at the pumpkin studio being a professional pumpkin carver, so it's just going to be you and I today. I think the decor this year has turned out to be one of my favorites so far, and I cannot wait to share it with you. And I thought it would also be nice to share how I get some of my decorating inspiration and where I get my decor from, and I hope it will give you some decorating ideas. So it's a rainy day here today, the perfect weather for this, so why don't you pour yourself something cozy and let's get started, shall we? Perhaps you have noticed this cozy candle over here. It is the Halloween Cottage candle in collaboration with Storybook Candle Company. The Halloween Cottage smells like cauldrons of black walnut tea, simmering poison apple, and dried hanging flowers. It's been a dream come true collaborating with Storybook Candle Co. and having our own unique candle scent to enjoy during the Halloween season. I love the description they wrote on their shop website. A secluded cottage nestled deep within a haunted wood, ancient cemeteries intertwined within the black tree roots. Grinning jack-o'-lanterns welcome you with mischievous grins. Welcome to the Halloween Cottage. So there's only a limited batch of these candles available, so I hope you'll be able to grab one before they're gone this season. And if you really enjoy the artwork that's on the candle that was painted by Jonas, then I am so excited to also let you know that we now have folded greeting cards available with the artwork of the Halloween Cottage. There's even a little charming poem on the inside that Jonas and I wrote together about our favorite holiday here at Cobweb Cottage. So why not send one of these greeting cards to a spooky friend? Thanks so much for supporting small businesses like ours and Storybook Candle Company this Halloween season. Before I get started decorating, I thought I could share some of my inspiration and how I get my decorating ideas. I think coming up with a theme really helps keep you on track. I like to think of the Cobweb Cottage Halloween theme as a cozy vintage witch's cottage in the woods that's next to a historic cemetery, which isn't too far off from the truth actually. So I like to work with those elements. Those elements for me are a mix of a witchy take on cottagecore, dark academia, and primitive rustic. I get so much of my inspiration from vintage Halloween postcards, sheet music covers, and old children's book illustrations. I'm basically always trying to recreate or make my own version of those small town scenes in those old-fashioned folk art calendars. I just think those are so cozy. I have a Pinterest board where I have some reference photos of the dark cottagecore aesthetic, which is my personal favorite. For me, that's a mix of primitive, vintage, antiques, and witchy. I also get a lot of inspiration from movies and TV shows like Over the Garden Wall, Hocus Pocus, Sleepy Hollow, The Village, Practical Magic, and more. I even get inspiration from historic sites that we have visited around New England and Old New York that have that primitive, Old Dutch, and rural village vibe. My cottage decor is obviously on a much smaller scale than what you see in my inspiration photos, but that's the fun part, is you get to put your own personal touch on it that's unique to your own home. So the majority of my Halloween decor is either vintage, thrifted, or handmade, or vintage reproduction. My personal favorite way to find items is going to thrift stores, and you can find some amazing things there. You can also look at antique stores, but that might be a little more pricey. If I have a specific item in mind that I haven't been able to find in a thrift store, then I will go to places like eBay to try to find what I'm looking for. And never underestimate an estate sale. They usually have the best bargains on holiday decor that I've found. So I actually had hoped to share a few new thrifted items with you in this video, but I did not get very lucky this year. But that's okay, it just goes to show that you don't always have to buy new things to decorate with. You can just work with what you have. I think the only recent additions this year are these trick-or-treating buckets that I picked up for free at our local recycling center, so you just never know what you can find. But when I do go thrifting, there are always a handful of things that I am keeping an eye out for that I thought I could share with you. I like to look for linens like quilts, embroidery, doilies, woven rugs, plaid curtains, woven throw blankets, lanterns, copper cauldrons, stoneware, old books, woodland animals, brass candlesticks, just to name a few things. So I hope you got a few good ideas from how I go about finding my inspiration and my decor, and hopefully it helped you out a little bit this year. So before we get started on the inside decor, I thought I could walk you through how I usually decorate the outside of the cottage. On the front porch, I love to put up corn stalks and a variety of mums and different shapes and sizes of pumpkins on the steps of the porch. The special touch is the Halloween bunting from Sourpuss Clothing that I got several years ago. I'm actually showing footage from previous years because this year, for the first time in 5 years, I could not get my hands on some corn stalks from the local farms that I usually get them from. I guess it was a bad year with the drought this summer. So I was a little bummed about that because I always love putting up the corn stalks. It just really looks like a vintage Halloween scene, and hopefully I'll figure something else out for this year. On the other side of the cottage, I'll usually put different colors of pumpkins and gourds and mums that fit in with all the colors of the cottage garden. Last year I went all out because my family was visiting from California, and Jonas even carved a pumpkin for them to see. But this year we dialed it back a little bit because the garden is so beautiful in itself already. I hope you enjoyed the outside tour of the cottage, and now it is time to move inside. Let's put on some spooky music and put the final touches on the decor. Let's begin in the kitchen, where I'm changing out my little postcard display with some charming Halloween cards. Around the window that faces out to the cemetery, I'm hanging this lovely little rustic leaf garland and placing a few mini pumpkins on the windowsill. The kitchen is where I like to display my primitive decorations that make it feel like a cozy country kitchen. I've already had most of this decor up since the fall, so I'm just adding a few extra spooky touches. I can highly recommend adding a cinnamon broom to a basket. It makes the kitchen smell so warm and cozy. Next to my tiny apothecary, I have some dried flowers and herbs hanging for a little kitchen witchy touch. I forgot to film a few little cauldrons I have on this shelf below, but all the copper tones really warm up this area and make it feel welcoming as you enter the cottage kitchen. And of course, every cottage kitchen needs a tea shelf, and here is where I have displayed my favorite pumpkin mugs and teapot. Now let's move into the living room. In front of the old front door, I've set up a display inspired by Over the Garden Wall, where I'm using rustic autumnal tones. I want this area to feel like an enchanted fall forest with mysterious woodland creatures. So I've placed real fall leaf branches that I dried last year, and I really love the outcome. I also want to mix in some harvest elements with dried wheat, burlap, and gingham, so it feels like a rural fall festival. Sometimes it can take a lot of fiddling to get an area to feel right, but now I'm feeling really happy with it. Moving on over to the sitting area, I'm hanging up a bat garland, and this year I've added a few vintage Halloween postcard printouts to it. This is where my cobweb cushions, gingham linens, and lace doilies that I have around the cottage all year finally have their time to shine. In my vintage sheet music frame that I change out seasonally, I couldn't decide between this jack-o'-lantern one or a recent one that I got. I may end up alternating between the two, but for now I'm really loving this Harvest Moon country scene that reminds me of the Trick or Treat Disney cartoon. Boo! Don't be frightened, it's just me and my usual Halloween tomfoolery. Which means it's time to finish putting up the vintage Halloween die cuts. These are reproduction that I got from Sourpuss Clothing a few years ago, and I love how easy they are to store away, yet they totally brighten up this space. Many moons ago, Jonas made these bats from foam paper, and he used a vintage illustration as inspiration. Their little grinning faces just make me smile. I'm taking this trick-or-treating bucket and placing it on top of another bucket, and adding some lights to really make it glow. There's just a few more vintage Halloween touches to add, like these Johanna Parker salt and pepper shakers. I am just over the moon with how this dresser display turned out this year. It's my old-fashioned Halloween dream come true. The last area to decorate is in the bedroom, where I've recently put up a wooden shelf with pegs, so I'm very excited to be able to hang a few witchy things there. In the bedroom is where we have some of Jonas's original pumpkin artwork and Sleepy Hollow art prints that you can find in his Etsy shop, The Woodland Library. I thought here on this bookcase would be a nice little spot to have a Dark Academia tribute to Sleepy Hollow. Sadly, my Headless Horseman figurine has broken one of its legs, but that's okay. I'll just tuck a candle in front of it, and no one is the wiser. This display would just not be complete without Pumpy Doo, Jonas's original character who feels right at home with the ghost stories of Sleepy Hollow. I rounded up all of our antique copies of Washington Irving's sketchbook to make a little bookshelf and nod to the author of the legend. As a final touch, I've tucked pressed leaves in between the book pages that are from right here in Sleepy Hollow Country. And the decorating is done, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me at Cobweb Cottage. But for the real magic of Halloween to reveal itself, we must wait until after dark.